The stadium lights burn bright, the cameras roll, and the whispers rise, again. They call it the Ohtani rule. A name that echoes across every dugout, every broadcast, every online debate. But this time, Dusty Baker has had enough. It wasn't just a press conference, it was a storm brewing under the calm of baseball tradition. The man in the toothpick, the legend of dugouts, the old-school heartbeat of the game, Dusty Baker, leaned forward, his eyes sharp beneath that trademark cap, and fired back. "Stop calling it the Ohtani rule." The room went silent. You could feel the air tighten. Journalists froze, reporters hovering midair. Nobody expected him to say that, not him. Not the man who's seen it all, from Hank Aaron's home runs to the analytic revolution that reshaped baseball. But Dusty wasn't speaking from ego. He was speaking from history, from decades of watching the game evolve, twist, and sometimes, forget where it came from. He wasn't disrespecting Shohei Ohtani, far from it. Dusty has always respected greatness. But what he couldn't stand was what the name symbolized now, how fans, commentators, and even young players had started to believe that baseball began with Ohtani's rise. Dusty took a slow breath, toothpick rolling between his fingers. "Listen," he said, his voice low but sharp enough to cut through the noise. "I love Shohei. The kid's special. But don't erase everyone else who came before him. Don't call it his rule, call it what it is, the evolution of baseball." Those words hit differently. Because for Dusty, it wasn't just about rules, it was about respect. He remembers when pitchers used to hit. When a man had to hold a bat and a ball, feel the dirt under his spikes, and prove he belonged on both sides. He remembers the fear in a pitcher's eyes when a fastball slipped inside, and the crack of a bat that silenced a crowd. Now, it's all clean lines and modern terms, the Ohtani rule, allowing a pitcher to remain as DH even after leaving the mound. A brilliant idea, sure. But one Dusty knew wasn't born yesterday. He thought of the forgotten two-way players who never made it to highlight reels, Brooks Kieschnick, Rick Ankiel's daring comeback, even the whispers of Babe Ruth before the myth swallowed him whole. They were pioneers too, but nobody hashtags their names anymore. And that's what burned Dusty the most. Not Ohtani's fame, not the new era, but the rewriting of baseball's story, as if everything before the Japanese superstar was just a prelude. The reporter asked him, "But Dusty, isn't Ohtani changing the game?" Dusty smiled, slow and tired. "He's not changing it. He's reminding it what it used to be." The line spread like wildfire online. Clipped, shared, reposted. Dusty Baker defends baseball's soul. Dusty fires back at Ohtani rule hype. But behind that soundbite was something deeper, an ache from a man who gave his life to the game, who saw it become more business than heartbeat. Because to Dusty, baseball wasn't supposed to be owned. It was supposed to be inherited. He admired Ohtani's gift, yes. The effortless swing, the calm stare from the mound, the humility that made him so beloved. But Dusty wanted people to remember, this wasn't a one-man miracle. This was a legacy that belonged to everyone who dared to play both ways before it was cool again. And that's what people missed. He leaned back, adjusting his wristband, the same way he did during tense moments in October. "You know what I respect about Ohtani," he said, softer now. "He plays the game right. But even he would tell you, he's standing on the shoulders of giants." That's where the room fell truly silent. Because that was Dusty's truth, spoken not out of anger, but reverence. He wasn't tearing down a hero, he was protecting a lineage. He's seen this game chew people up, spit them out, and forget their names. He's seen young players chasing algorithms instead of instincts, highlight reels instead of hard lessons. And in Ohtani, he saw hope, but also a warning. The cameras caught his final words before he stood up. "You can call it whatever you want. But I call it baseball. The same game I fell in love with in the 60s. The same game that raised me. The same game that doesn't belong to one man, no matter how great he is." He left the podium. No theatrics. No raised voice. Just Dusty being Dusty, the last bridge between the game's heart and its headlines. Later that night, in the post-game shows, the debate raged. Some said he was bitter. Some said he was right. But deep down, everyone knew, Dusty Baker had just spoken a truth that no one else dared to. Even Ohtani, when asked about Dusty's comments, smiled faintly. "He's right," Shohei said through his translator. "I didn't invent the game. I'm just trying to play it the best I can." And that, right there, was the beauty of it, two generations respecting the same fire from different sides of time. The fans might argue forever. The analysts might dissect every syllable. But history will remember this as more than a quote, it was a moment when baseball looked in the mirror and saw its soul again. Because in the end, the Ohtani rule isn't about names or credit. It's about courage, the courage to do what others said couldn't be done. The courage to swing and pitch and dream and fail and rise again. Dusty Baker didn't start a feud that day. He started a conversation, one that reminded everyone that greatness doesn't erase history. It builds upon it. And as the lights dimmed over the diamond that night, somewhere in the quiet hum of an empty ballpark, you could almost hear the whisper of generations past, Ruth, Ankiel, Kieschnick, all nodding in the shadows, because the game, finally, had remembered their names again. Dusty's fire, Ohtani's grace, and baseball's timeless heartbeat, all collided in that one moment of truth. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real Ohtani rule.